The movie begins 17 years ago on an island called St. Hubert. On the island is a research lab where they're genetically modifying dinosaurs. In the lab, we see a scientist entering, and his colleague opens the door for him. But after he enters, we notice that an inner door inside the lab malfunctions and won't close. At that moment, the alarm goes off, and everyone in the lab quickly flees. However, the lab's main door closes on one of the scientists. His colleague tries to open the door, but she stops, horrified, as she sees a dinosaur appearing behind her trapped colleague. He pleads with her to open the door quickly, but she's too afraid and apologizes. The dinosaur then eats him. We flash forward to the present, 32 years after dinosaurs were brought back to life. The dinosaurs are living in a cluster of islands near the equator, and the government has banned anyone from going near them. We see Krebs in his car, stuck in traffic. Zora is with him, and we learn from their conversation that Krebs owns a private company that develops medicines. He wants to go on a secret mission to the tropical islands to collect dinosaur blood samples. With these samples, his company can improve the medicine they produce. We also learn that someone recommended Zora for this mission because she was in special forces. When Zora hears that he wants to go to the tropical islands, she's not interested and gets out of the car to leave. Krebs gets out and follows her, trying to convince her. He explains that he wants to collect the dinosaur blood samples to develop a medicine that will help people. Zora remains uninterested until she hears him say that she'll get a reward from this mission. She asks him how much the reward will be, and he tells her the amount will have 7 zeros, and she'll be able to live the rest of her life wealthy. In exchange for going on the mission with him, Zora immediately agrees. They then go to a dinosaur museum to talk with Henry, an expert paleontologist. Henry knows about the mission because Krebs had spoken to him about it before. Henry explains the purpose of the mission to Zora, telling her they'll collect 3 samples from 3 types of dinosaurs: a marine dinosaur, a plant-eating dinosaur, and a flying dinosaur. The samples they collect will be used to improve the medicine Krebs's company is working on. Because the mission is secret, Krebs wants them to go alone without a military escort or other security personnel. When Henry hears that Krebs wants him to go with them, he's surprised, as he thought Krebs was only asking for his opinion on the mission, not more. Naturally, Henry isn't on board because the mission is dangerous. Zora then tries to convince him, telling him he's never seen a real dinosaur up close before, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. Because Henry is such a dinosaur enthusiast, he agrees to go with them. They immediately go to the location of the 4th person, Duncan, and talk to him about the mission. Although Duncan had previously agreed, he backs out and refuses, telling them the mission is dangerous and will put their lives at risk. Zora then tries to persuade him too by provoking him, saying she'll ensure the team's safety in his place if he's too cowardly to go. She succeeds in getting Duncan to agree, but he stipulates that they must go on his boat and that his assistant, Bobby, must also join them to help ensure their safety. Krebs agrees. The team then gathers and begins the mission on the boat in the ocean. The boat's captain and his assistant, Nina, are with them. In the cockpit, Krebs explains that they will sail toward the islands at the equator. Bobby shows them a weapon with a neurotoxin they will use to defend themselves if dinosaurs attack. Henry says at that moment that their goal is not to kill the dinosaurs. Bobby responds by saying they won't use the toxin unless they're forced to defend themselves. Still, Henry isn't comfortable with the idea. We then switch to another boat in the ocean with a family on a sea trip. We meet the father, Robin, as he talks with his younger daughter, Eliza. His older daughter, Teresa, comes out after waking up, and her boyfriend, Javier, follows her. A little while later, Teresa notices a finned creature appearing in the water. The creature is a marine dinosaur which collides with their boat, capsizing it. They cling to the overturned boat and send out a mayday signal on the radio for any nearby ship to hear. The next morning, the team hears the distress call on the radio and learns that the family's location is a few miles away from them. They discuss it, but Krebs and Bobby don't want to change direction and go save the family. Krebs tells them someone else will surely hear the radio message and go save them. But Zora says they must help the family and go to them. Duncan then makes the decision and says they're going to rescue them. We go back to the family at this point, and they're still sitting on the boat. When they see the team's boat approaching, they're overjoyed that someone has finally come to rescue them. Afterward, In the cockpit, the family explains that a marine dinosaur attacked their boat. They hear the team talking about their mission, but they don't understand it. Krebs doesn't explain the nature of the mission to them, simply saying they'll go to the island to collect some things and then return. At that moment, the marine dinosaur swims next to the boat, and they see it as a suitable opportunity. They get ready to collect the first sample from it. Zora takes out the weapon with the syringe and waits until they are within 10 meters of it to shoot. She fires the first syringe, but she misses. She asks Henry for another syringe. Henry gets her the syringe and loads it into the weapon. At that moment, the dinosaur gets closer, and Zora fires the syringe at it, hitting it. The syringe collects the sample, recoils, and flies into the air, and they catch it. They've successfully collected the first sample and are very happy. Afterward, Henry speaks to Zora in private and tells her that after Krebs's company collects the samples and develops the medicine, it won't be for everyone, but only for the rich. Zora says she hadn't thought about that, and that it's not her job to think or care about it. All she wants is for the mission to be over, so she can get her money. A little later, they see dinosaurs of a different kind swimming around their boat. Bobby then shoots at them to scare them away, even though there's no need to do so. A dinosaur attacks him from the water, dragging him underwater and killing him. They speed up the boat toward the rocks because the dinosaurs are chasing them. Duncan wants to get the boat to shallow water so the dinosaurs can't get to them, but at the same time, the rocks could hit the boat and sink it. Robin then asks his daughter, Teresa, to quickly go to the cockpit and send a distress call over the radio. But Krebs goes after her and stops her, saying this is a secret trip, and they don't want anyone to know about it. Teresa tries to push him away, so she slips backward and grabs onto the side of the boat before falling into the water. She calls to Krebs to help her, but he doesn't move. Her father, Robin, sees her fall into the water, and her boyfriend, Javier, immediately jumps into the water after her to save her. Then, Robin jumps in with his younger daughter, Eliza, because the boat is about to be wrecked by the rocks. They all jump from the boat. Duncan, meanwhile, continues to steer the boat until he reaches the shore. At the same time, Javier and Teresa are in the water. She tells him that Krebs tried to kill her on the boat. They find her father, Robin, and her sister, Eliza, and they all gather together. At this time, Krebs reaches the island after swimming, and Zora and Henry arrive, having survived the dinosaur attack. A little while later on the beach, a dinosaur attacks the captain's assistant, Nina, eating her and taking her into the water. Duncan is shocked as he watches her die. We go to Robin's family, who enter a cave on the island and see the island's beautiful ruins. As for Krebs, he tells the team that this island is called St. Hubert and that there was a secret lab here where they developed dinosaur genes. However, the experiment got out of control, and the dinosaurs escaped from the lab, so the government decided to withdraw from the island and leave it for the dinosaurs to live on. They are angry at Krebs because he didn't tell them about this before the trip and hid it from them. But Zora insists they continue the mission so she can get her reward. She tells them there's no need to hesitate and moves on her own, so they will follow her to collect the remaining 2 samples. Later, while they're moving on the island, they hear the sound of dinosaurs. Large plant-eating dinosaurs appear. Zora and Henry get ready to shoot the syringe at them. Because Henry knows these dinosaurs aren't harmful, he gets closer to them and touches a dinosaur's leg. He's amazed because it's the first time in his life he's touched a real dinosaur. Zora shoots the syringe at the dinosaur, and the syringe collects the sample and then recoils and flies. Duncan catches it. They've successfully collected the second sample, and only the third one remains, which is supposed to be from a flying dinosaur. We return to Robin's family. They've reached a place on the island, and Teresa sees a broken-down boat on the other side. She decides to cross over and go to it herself, hoping to find something to help them. But while she's there, she finds a sleeping dinosaur. She tries not to make a sound and enters the cabin of the broken-down boat. She finds an inflatable boat in a bag. She takes it out and drags it toward the water, scared because any sound might wake the sleeping dinosaur. Even though her father and boyfriend, Javier, gesture to her not to inflate the boat, Teresa does, and of course, the boat makes a noise. At that moment, she finds that the dinosaur has disappeared. A little later, the dinosaur appears, drinking water. Teresa moves the boat and goes to them. They all get in with her and paddle quickly to get away from the dinosaur, but it notices them and goes after them in the water to catch them. It flips the boat, and they swim with the current. They're able to gather again, but Eliza is missing. They hear her voice from under the overturned inflatable boat. The boat is heading toward the dinosaur at this moment, and the dinosaur lifts it with its mouth. They think Eliza is dead, but she appears in the water and swims with the current toward them. The dinosaur tries to catch and eat her, but at the last moment, Eliza reaches them and gets through some rocks, and the dinosaur can't follow, so it leaves them and goes away. At that moment, the inflatable boat appears in front of them from under the water. They are happy because they survived the dinosaur attack, and they still have the boat. We go back to the team. They are climbing to a high place to shoot the syringe at the flying dinosaur. They use a rope to descend to the dinosaur's nest. Inside the nest, Henry finds dinosaur eggs, so he takes the third sample with the syringe from one of the eggs. At this moment, the dinosaur reaches its nest, and Zora and Henry try to hide and get away from the dinosaur, which is trying to kill them. At that moment, the captain makes a sound from outside, so the dinosaur goes to him. The captain calls to Duncan and Krebs to quickly pull him up with the rope, but the rope then pulls Henry, causing him to fall from above. Luckily, he falls into the water and survives. They all climb down, put the third sample they collected in the bag, and move on. At this moment, Robin's family is in the inflatable boat, paddling in the shallow water. They leave the boat and walk toward the lab. At the same time, the team reaches the lab area. Zora notices footprints, so she knows Robin's family is nearby. She calls out to them. Krebs tells her they don't have time and doesn't want them to look for them, but Zora insists on looking for them and calls out until they find them. As soon as Teresa sees Krebs, she gets angry and tells him he tried to kill her on the boat. But Krebs is holding a gun in his hand and denies that he tried to push her, accusing her of being a liar. He takes the bag of samples from Zora and tells them they will wait for the helicopter to arrive to take them off the island without any problems. Suddenly, the place lights up because the automatic power generator starts, lighting up the area when night falls. Dinosaurs appear in the area, so they try to escape quickly. Robin's family enters an abandoned supermarket and closes the door behind them. Henry and Duncan enter the lab and close the gate behind them. One of the dinosaurs is able to enter the supermarket through the heating system. Robin's family is hiding while it searches for them. Robin notices a drain where water is going down and understands there are tunnels underneath. So they go down before the dinosaur reaches them and start moving through the tunnels below. At the same time, Duncan, while in the lab, learns that there are underground tunnels, and these tunnels lead to an emergency boat on the island's beach. They then see the helicopter in the sky. Duncan asks Henry to try to attract the helicopter's attention while he leaves to look for Robin's family. Krebs, at this time, drives a car, moving and escaping by himself, leaving Zora behind. Zora quickly hides, and then sees a dinosaur entering a sewage drain to the tunnels below ground. Zora quickly moves and follows it because she heard Robin's family's voices in the tunnels. Meanwhile, Henry tries to attract the helicopter's attention and fires a flare so they will see him. But unfortunately, a dinosaur attacks the helicopter as it's landing, destroying it. Moments later, Duncan hears the voices of Robin's family in the tunnel below. He has Henry quickly go down into the tunnel, and he goes down too. They hide from the dinosaur. Duncan tells them that these tunnels lead to the emergency boat. They move together. Zora is also moving through the tunnels. She hears their voices and sees them. She quickly shoots the dinosaur behind them, hitting it. They then move toward the exit and reach the gate, but they find it closed and can't get through it. However, the child, Eliza, gets through the bars of the gate because her body is small and goes to open the gate from the outside. At that moment, a large dinosaur appears, but it doesn't notice Eliza as she opens the gate. At the same time, Krebs arrives in the car he's driving. The dinosaur sees him, attacks him, and eats him. Zora takes the bag of samples, and they quickly move toward the emergency boat. But the dinosaur appears and gets close to Eliza. Duncan then distracts the dinosaur with a flare, attracting it to him. The dinosaur goes to Duncan, who jumps into the water and swims, so the dinosaur will go after him, giving them a chance to start the rescue boat and get away. They get in the boat, start it, and move. The dinosaur can't catch them, and they get away from it. Zora is sad for Duncan, who sacrificed himself for them. But then they see a flare in the sky and understand that Duncan fired it. They look for him and find him still alive in the water. They take him with them on the boat and leave the island. When Zora asks Henry who they will give as samples they have to, Henry gives her the choice and tells her that she has to decide for herself. She decides to give the samples to everyone, not to a private company like Krebs's, so that everyone can benefit from them. They see a pod of dolphins swimming with the boat and are happy because they survived and feel satisfied.